Hey, how you doing there, Red and Gold? Happy New Year. 2025 is now upon us. I hope everybody had a happy, healthy New Year. A lot of fun last night. Although, if you're anything like me, he was still kind of. If you would put it this way, if you were going to drink last night, was the perfect way to do it, especially after Monday night's loss to the Detroit Lions. If you were going to hit the bottle, it was a good time to hit the bottle. A lot of good reasons to hit the bottle, especially watching that game, which made me pace, which made me stressed, which made me angry, which made me happy, which made me a whole bunch of things, despite the fact that we're not going to the playoffs, obviously, but that doesn't stop us when we're really passionate about our team. I mean, I've been a 49er fan so long that I've seen so many teams that never were not in the position to go to the playoffs, and therefore, it's just been my experience that you keep rooting for your fucking team if they're 0-17 to the end. That's just what I do. I keep defending them. I keep fucking going with them, rolling with them, despite I don't give a shit if their whole second level of players aren't even in there. And, even if it's just guys who are right off the street, man, I'm with them 100%. But, listen, I had no expectations going into that game. I figured, the Lions are red hot right now, despite all the injuries they have. We had them topped tier for tier in types of injuries, man. I mean, despite all the injuries they've had, they have still maintained a very lucrative and successful way of football all season long. I think a lot of that has to do with their head coach. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've kept a lot of the same personnel around. You got to give Ben Johnson his credit. Plus, they've kept the roster in check the last couple of years, which I always feel is really important. And you don't have so many revolving door type players. And, from watching that game, I got to give Jared Goff just a whole shitload of props, man. Jared Goff has become a better quarterback with the Detroit Lions in his second team than he ever was close to with the Rams. Now, to his for him, the best thing was he was in two very good systems, coached by two great coaches around a shitload of talent, and the guy had one really rough year with a team that was sort of kind of flailing out, gets traded, goes to Detroit, and just sort of rewrites his own career. It's amazing. And he's got this amazing abundance of talent around him, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, Gibbs, the offensive line. They have an offensive line that could take on the Barbarian Horde. And they were missing Aiden Hutchinson. Their defensive backfield, Kirby Joseph, 9 interceptions. This rookie kicker Bates. I mean, they are rolling, like I have never seen, man. And it's going to be really interesting. A side note: this weekend when they face the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, to be fair, just for pure football fans like myself, definitely catch that game. You're going to see two really different yet great head coaches go up against each other with two very talented and very good teams battling it out to see who is the best and who gets that first seed. They're both 14-2, and the Eagles automatically get the second seed because they're 13-3. So it's going to be really interesting to see where that one goes down. I think you have Sam Darnell, who's had what a career year for him against Jared Goff. You got Aaron Jones, who's had a real solid year coming over from Green Bay, going up against Jamar Gibbs. And, wide receiver-wise, the best of the best. Amon-Ra St. Brown against Justin Jefferson. You got Jordan Addison against Jamison Williams. I mean, you got the great tight end matchup with Hawkinson. I mean, this is like a wet dream for a football fan. Unless at least I think it is. But let's get back to Monday night's game, man. Like I said, I had no expectations coming into this game. I figured, look, all I really want to do, I hope they do, is play hard, don't get blown out, be competitive, and I saw that on all ends. First of all, I'm really happy about that. Despite the way the game ended, despite the injury, I'm really happy what I saw. I thought that they played their tails off, especially in the first half. I think that was a brilliant game plan by Shanahan. They came out banging, went right down the field on a real shitty, depleted, overrated Lions defense, which I think Minnesota has to be licking their chops to, as do other teams in the NFC. Niners went right down the field. Purdy was on fire. He had a monster game despite the 2 interceptions. They were running the ball well with Guerrero and Deebosamuel, even Ricky Pearsall, using him as a running back, which I really liked. George Kittle had another career game, had his career year. He reached his fourth season with 1,000 yards, the best tight end in football. And you're going to laugh at me, but I thought the offensive line, for all the injuries they had, played really well. The 2 sacks they gave up were not really their fault. They were coverage sacks. If you go back and look at them, Purdy, obviously just I would have wished he would have thrown the ball away, but the pocket kind of collapsed after a few seconds. I think he was averaging somewhere in the numbers of 3.5 seconds per snap to hold the ball. And obviously, couldn't hold it too long because they were surging. But I thought the kid Pleasance came in and played good for what he was. Kid, didn't have a lot of experience. I thought he did well. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of complaints, man, with that offensive line. I mean, they were injured, they were banged up. There was no Trent Williams, Aaron Banks. There was no Spencer Burford. I mean, they were nicked up completely. But I liked what I saw, man. I really did. I would have liked to have seen them continue using the run, but it didn't really happen. But again, I think that like in terms of the way that type of game that they were involved in, it was working. I mean, them throwing the ball a lot of the time was working. Saw great things. Juwan Jennings has really just rewritten his career. I mean, other than being a third wide receiver and a guy who's really good around the goal line and at stretching, getting first downs, he has become a threat. I mean, you could say whatever you want about Deebo. He's old. He's this. I think that's bullshit. But they've got a trio of wide receivers when a healthy IU comes back. Even the trio right now with Ricky Pearsall, that is pretty damn good. And with a season gone by and Pearsall getting the experience he needs, because Pearsall had a phenomenal game Monday night. I think he had 8 catches, 141 yards, whatever it was. He had that monster one-handed catch. Listen, Pearsall had a game Monday night, and if that's a glimpse of what he can be, I mean, we're in a good place right there. The only other thing I wish we could have seen more, it would have been Cowling, but I guess, the way that game was going, didn't really get a chance to utilize him more. Isaac Guerrero, listen, that kid's had a great rookie season. I only wish that we could have used him more. His 40 time is amazing. He catches the ball well out of the backfield. He runs with the full head of steam. He's got breakneck speed like you've seen in the first matchup against Seattle when he slid to kind of run out the clock. So, future looks bright with him, man. I'm loving it. Fucking D Winters, man. I mean, we all knew D Winters was a hitter, but holy shit. He was hitting people so hard the other night. He hurt himself and stayed in the game. If you notice, he kept kind of limping on that right leg. It looked like it was his thigh. D Winters is a thumper, bro. So think about it. Next year, you get a healthy Dre Greenlaw. You get a healthy Fred Warner with that fractured ankle and D Winters. There's your trio of linebackers, especially when you're in different packages. I got no problem with that. I like it. I like it a lot. Renardo Green looks like he's been playing for at least 2 or 3 seasons. Did a damn good job. The good thing about Renardo Green, I didn't like the fact that the defense broke down on that touchdown pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I felt like it was blown coverage and it was a very soft touchdown to him, but I think there was a problem with coverage. Renardo Green, I thought, like, for the most part, the good thing about him is he's had no choice but to go up against top talent in this league, and he's done okay. I mean, think about the guys he's had to have seen by looking at the schedule in which we've played. He's played up against some great wide receivers, so he's only going to get better. And corner is a position we're really going to need to address because you can never have too many corners. I mean, another guy is Malik Mustafa. The guy is a surging scud missile. Not only being a physical freak himself in terms of his body, but the way he plays the game. I think I had it in my post that he reminds me of Dante Whitner, a.k.a. Dante Hittner. He reminds me of a throwback of like a Steve Atwater or a Ronnie Lott type. I think if he can continue the way he's going, that's the way he can be. Almost like a Tony Parrish, who I used to love. I mean, he's an animal. So these are guys that are rookies that I think it's great that they're playing a lot for their rookie season and they're getting a lot of experience. I mean, you put Mustafa and Talanoa Hufnega in a full season healthy together, you got two thumpers right there. So again, like I'm very optimistic about this team for next year. And just from watching Monday night, I was optimistic. It looked like to me that it looked like the Niner team for the most part for 3/4 that we know we're used to, right? That we're used to. Thank you guys for joining the live. Cali 49ers still need to fire Kyle, underutilized the wrong people. Pierce will have one good game yet to be determined by that O-line. Can't blame Green. It is that crappy wide 9 off coverage in the red zone. Another issue of Shanahan. Well, Cali, that's where we disagree, man. That's okay. I'm a Shanny guy. So I respect your opinion. I don't think Shanahan's going anywhere. There's nobody else out there to hire. He's got the right system. Does he make mistakes? Sure does. Does he underutilize guys? Yes, he does. Should he have played some more rookies earlier in the season? 100%. I agree with you. Should he be throwing the ball more to running backs as you do in a West Coast offense? Yeah, I agree. Especially with no McCaffrey. Now seeing what Garendo can do out of the backfield, definitely should be dumping him the ball more to him, and he should be dumping the ball more to Juice for that matter. Yeah, Ben Johnson's not going anywhere. I got a feeling, man. Look, if Detroit wins it all, I don't think he's going anywhere. Yeah, man. Look, Ben Johnson. Just reading Ben Johnson's background, I mean, I give the guy a lot of credit. He seems like a self-made guy, especially a guy who comes from the Adam Gase tree, which really scares me. But I think, and he's also a student of the Mike Martz offense. If you remember Mike Martz with the Rams, the greatest show on turf, and that's the way the Detroit Lions looked the other night. Like they couldn't be stopped, man. I mean, they had the best of everything. I don't think they never punted. That tells you everything. They never fucking punted in that game. But I think you make a good point, Callie, when you say. That wide 9 coverage is just what the fuck is that? When they were showing the overhead the overhead shot of the coverage, you know, I know your back is to the goal line. I know that Detroit is surging, but there were guys right there for Brown. I mean, he had a soft zone wide open. I don't understand how you don't lock man on man with him. I mean, look. A lot of the times I think it's pure pragmatism. You know where the ball's going. And mind you, yeah, they do have a lot of targets they can throw the ball to. But, you know, I'm on Ross St. Brown. Just look at the guy's stats, number one. The last 3 years, he's had over 100 receptions per year. You know he's their number one option. And in the game, he was red hot. You know they're going to go to him. And it just seemed to me that, like, there was either a blown coverage. Someone wasn't doing the job. It was just a shit coverage. Look, I will. You bring up a good point. Was Goff not a cast-off, and you see how he puts in DB in a position to succeed? We need Kyle. It's so dull. I will say this, man. You make a good point because I'm gathering my thoughts here. My mind is racing. Excuse me. But I think that Sorensen has to go. I don't think Nick Sorensen's the answer as defensive coordinator. In fact, I thought when they hired Sorensen, I didn't understand the hiring. I mean, I understood it from a I guess you'll call it a you know, inside the company type of thing as you do, meaning you don't have to go out and search. Not that I'm saying they didn't go out, but it makes it a lot easier. I don't think Sorensen's the guy at all. The Niners need a defensive coordinator that is almost like a head coach. And when I say that, I mean Robert Saleh, I mean Rex Ryan, not exactly Rex Ryan, but I'm saying like Rex Ryan. And of course, D'Amico Ryans. They need guys like that who are defensively singular-minded in their style of coaching. And I don't think Sorensen's the guy. I didn't feel comfortable with it when they did it. I wanted to give him a fair shot. I remember him playing. He wasn't a bad safety, kind of a thumper. But I just don't think he's the guy, number one. Number two, he doesn't have the personnel. Let's keep it 100 here. He doesn't have the personnel. There was no moves made, as I've said before, to get a stud defensive tackle in the by trade deadline or in the offseason to match Javon Hargrave. I know they were going to go with Hargrave and Collins had a good year. I think Collins is a good defensive tackle, but Jordan Elliott played well too. I can't shit on him, but there's no depth, and they need a mean run stuffing, two offensive linemen grabbing or absorbing type of guy, and they don't have that. They need a Quinnen Williams. They need a Sheldon Rankins, who I loved. They need a guy like that caliber that can do that, just eat up the offensive lineman and make things better for them around him. But Kyle wants that wide nine. Another reason why he needs to go. We need a Justin Smith. Well, a Justin Smith would be a beautiful thing to happen. I mean, that's a rare gem you're talking about. I mean, Cowboy was just like an absolute animal, man. He was a wrecking ball on every fucking play. Guy had an engine like I had never seen. And if you really want to, another great thing about those days, they had a linebacker who was one of my favorites, never got his due, Derek Smith, another guy who was a tackling machine and was just in every down, there every game. I wish we could have guys like that again, but the reality is with what we have right now in terms of defensive end, because you mentioned Justin Smith, I don't think you're wrong. I think we need another guy there because Bosa is that could have been Bosa's best game that I've ever seen. And I know he had 2 sacks, but I've never seen a guy get manhandled in terms of getting choked, getting his collar pulled, there was a segment where, who was it? Penny Sewell smashed him in the face right in front of the ref. I saw that same call 3 times earlier in the week in different games. It's illegal hands to the face. For some reason, I don't think the league is big on Nick Bosa, and I kind of have a feeling why. I'm going to keep my opinions to myself on that. I think the refs are a little bit hesitant to make calls with him. We've seen it various times against Kansas City. We've seen it various times this year, especially seeing every game he's played, like many of you have. But the guy was getting choked out. Guy was getting smashed. Still had 2 sacks. Still was raining terror with a bad oblique, with a bad hip. There's not much more I can say about him. He's such a game changer. It's ridiculous. He comes along once in a blue moon. Leonard Floyd, I always felt I understood the signing, but here's the problem. I don't think Leonard Floyd's an every down type guy. Leonard Floyd is a situational pass rusher. Now, he's had a pretty good season stat-wise, but Leonard Floyd to me is a lot better when if you have the need to kind of put him at outside linebacker. I know he's a defensive end, but he's not really a run-stopping defensive end, just in my opinion. Plus, it's very hard to compare him to Nick Bosa because the two are so far apart. I'm not trying to shit on Leonard Floyd, but I think that if you have somebody else in Bosa's range, not exactly him, but can stuff the run and stop the run and get after and penetrate and yet pursue, it makes everything so much better. And Chase Young was the same way. Chase Young, I used to think Chase Young was a lot better, but I maybe the knee injury really has been catastrophic for his career, unfortunately, because I was a fan of his coming out. But I thought good things were going to happen when we acquired him last year in the trade. And I just, again, some ends I find are not built like Bosa, and that's saying a lot for him. It reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if any of you guys have seen recently, ESPN had a great 30 for 30 on the New York Sack Exchange, which was for the New York Jets in the 80s. Joe Kleckel, Abdul Salam, rest in peace. He just passed away. Mark Gastineau and Marty Lyons were the 4. Mark Gastineau, unfortunately, was a sack machine. Should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way, and he's 100% right when he tells Brett Favre, I want my sack back. Gastineau was a game changer. Now, the only problem with him is he never really went after the run, and he admits it in there, and his other teammates admit it. I don't think Floyd's like that, but he doesn't. He just, some guys just don't pursue well. But I think Floyd has played well in a rotational situation. I think, yeah, he can be valuable, but we need a monster stud on the other side. We got to give Bosa help. I feel like it's just Nick Bosa out there sometimes. And again, I'm not trying to shit on anybody else. Collins has had 4 sacks. Jordan Elliott has come up big. I like them, but I think they're better as rotational players. So that takes me back to the initial question of, we didn't push for a defensive tackle trade at the trade deadline. I don't understand that. Jeffrey Simmons, I had heard, was available. There were a couple of the guys. I mean, Tennessee was a fucking it was a fire sale at the time. Yeah, it's a damn shame because he supports. They need to. That's a good point, Carly. There's part of that I wonder. There's part of that I wonder because I just feel like sometimes, like, again, the ref was standing right there. He got punched. He got suckered, punched right in his face. And I've seen that same call. I think I saw it in the Jet game this past weekend against the Dolphins. They had called that illegal hands to the face. And he doesn't get the calls. I don't get it. It boggles my mind. We need space eaters. Yes, on the D line, cause look at the gaps we leave. 100%. Callie, great point. Space eaters is another good way to put it. We need. I just feel like, again, my thing has always been when the Niners hold teams under 100 on the ground, we win. Jamal Gibbs ran over us, and Jamal Gibbs is an extravagant amount of talent. Jamal Gibbs reminds me of a little bit of two guys. I thought about this when I was looking at him. Edgerrin James, if you remember him, Edgerrin James, before he had the knee injury, was he had a great career, but he was an absolute mauling beast looking to knock you on your ass. And he went on to be a Hall of Famer. And I think I forgot the other running back who I said he reminded me of to myself. Because Gibbs has this really good ability to bounce outside, yet to stay inside sometimes, lower that shoulder and pound you over. And again, him and Montgomery are just such a stupendous, great duo. And they have one of the best offensive lines in football, if not the best offensive line, talent for talent, person for person, player for player. So, but I think Gibbs is a freak show. We couldn't stop him to save our lives. And Fred Warner said it. The defensive guys said it. They couldn't wrap up Gibbs at all. And you know what? The defensive line didn't do a terrible job against that offensive line, but we couldn't stop him at all. Third down, they were killing us. They were killing us on fourth down. We knew that was their MO. We were able to hold them to second and third and long a couple of times. But here's another problem. Is other than Nick Bosa, we didn't get any pressure on Jared Goff. That's just the way it is. Hence why we need to step it up and stud out that defensive tackle. So, look, let's call it like it is. Jake Moody fucked us. That's the way it is. I knew he was gonna fucking miss those field goals. I fucking knew it. You all knew it. You didn't feel confident with him. Now, two schools of thought here. I was listening to this guy. Who's the guy at the podcast, the journalist for the 49ers? The guy Kruger. He has a podcast. I don't want to say anything disparaging because I don't believe in like shitting on people a lot of the time unless I really need to. But I agree and disagree with guys like him and I forgot the other guy who covers the 49ers, the other journalist. But they were talking about Moody. They brought up a good point. When Moody had come back into the building after his injury, when they were going with Wright and Carlson at kicker, they asked him how did he feel, and he said, I feel good, but I still have some pain by the ankle. And, my father and I said the same thing. If that's the case, why is he playing? Why is Moody kicking? If it's an issue, why is he kicking? I mean, if you go back and look at the tape and look at that injury that he had, I thought his leg was going to break off. It almost looked like a Joe Theismann thing had it would have been bent the whole way. Also, I see a lot of players going for the big hit instead of the wrap. Oh, dude, golly, that's like... I must preach that shit to my nephew who's fucking 12 and plays football. Stop with this big hit shit. Stop with that. That don't mean shit. Get the tackle. Do a David Harris. Get the tackle. What's his name? Linebacker used to play for the Rams. Was a tackling machine. It escapes me right now. David Harris played for the Jets and the Patriots. He was a tackling machine. Get the tackle. Forget that. Yeah, Moody fucked us, dude. Moody fucked us. Look, I respect Shanny for sticking by his player, but at the same time, I'm sure in the back of his head he knows this guy's got to go. I mean, how many more weeks do we have to watch, if thank God one more week, of Shanahan and John Lynch getting pissed at the guy? Look, the guy's missed 9 field goals this year. He missed a big field goal, an extra point, whatever, in the Super Bowl last year. Maybe the ankle injury had something to do with it, but here's the problem. If that's the case, he should not have been playing. You should have held on to Carlson, who was 8 of 8, and Matthew Wright, who hadn't missed. Those two were just as good. Moody's got to go. I'm very iffy on drafting kickers very high. The only guy I can think of that sustained the test of time was the Polish He-Man, Sebastian Janikowski, who the Raiders drafted in the first round and who played till he was about 40 or 41 years old. And if you remember correctly, he had a kickoff that could stun a horse, and he would run down the field, all 250 pounds of him, and he would drill kick returners. He's the one guy that I could think of drafting. Other than that, no. I don't give a shit what Moody did in college. He fucked us big time the other night. Now, funny, if you do the math, right, we lost 40-34. He kicks the field goal, 2 field goals. It's 40-37. It's 40-40, right? He also missed the extra point. Now, when we score, even if the Lions had taken the lead, which they had, let's just say for argument's sake, Moody makes the 2 field goals. We're down 40-37, right? No, I'm sorry. We were down, what were we down there? We were down 40-28, 40-27, whatever it was. We scored the touchdown. It was 40-34. He missed the extra point. If we would have still been playing catch up and made the extra point, it's a tie game. People want to all put the blame on Brock Purdy. Did he throw 2 bad passes? Yeah, he did. The second one, I thought Joseph jumped the route, but still looked a little high. I see where he was going with that. Pearsall, I believe, had to leave his feet to get that. But yeah, it happens. But if you do the math, Purdy blew that game for us. You're talking about 7 points that we didn't get because he missed 2 fucking field goals and an extra point. We win 41-40. That's it. No one's talking about shit. No one's talking about shit other than that. And Moody redeems himself for next year. 100%. But that didn't happen. They need to move on from him. You need to move on from him. There's a lot of kickers out there. Get Shane Carlson back. When you go into camp this summer, get Carlson, get Wright, pick up a rookie, pick up a veteran, call Robbie Gould. How many of us were saying Robbie Gould, calling Robbie Gould? The 49ers are on the red and gold phone when Moody went down. Robbie Gould is probably in Maui, just, living it up. But that's who we need, not this guy. This guy's confidence was shaken, had been shook ever since the Tampa Bay game. So that's the game in a nutshell. That's the game in a nutshell for sure. And again, the good things we saw, Purdy had a great game, other than the 2 interceptions. Now, this journalist Kruger, one thing I can't stand is when these fucking journalists who are just doing nothing but trying to acquire views, they go into this whole soliloquy about Brock Purdy. They go into this whole song and dance. They go into this like they try and analyze him psychologically. How do they say it? Well, he's not a top 5 quarterback, and he's not, he's a whatever the fuck they say about him. Look, he's not a Hall of Fame. The guy's 24 fucking years old, 25. What are we talking about Hall of Famers? You don't talk about Hall of Famers until they get into their 30s, and, then you start having that conversation. This guy has had 2 monster years. He brought us to the Super Bowl, and he had a little bit of an off year this year. Yeah, his numbers were down to an extent, but come on. Let's get serious here. These are the same guys that were talking about getting Sam Darnell in there, getting Kirk Cousins in there. Are you kidding me? That's what I can't stand about these journalists. They know exactly. And these are guys who cover the fucking team week in and week out. This guy, I know Purdy. I've spoken to him. You don't know him. You don't know him personally. So stop with that shit. Stop with that. Just because he answers your questions doesn't mean you fucking broke bread with him. You don't know. You don't know him. So stop. Just like I don't. I know what I see. I know the tape. Watch the tape. Go back and watch. I got a feeling that in the offseason, Purdy's going to get his money. And he's not going to ask for the monster amount. He's going to do the Tom Brady. And they're going to use the other money to rebuild. Because that's what they need to do. And we know the various positions they need to rebuild. They need a kicker. right? We talked about they needed defensive line help at tackle and at end. I wouldn't mind another corner. Linebacker, I think we're okay. If Greenlaw comes back 100% healthy, D Winners. I want to see what Taden Bethune has. I think he could be a good player. Flanagan Fowles keep. You're gonna laugh at me. I think we need a backup tight end, big time. Wouldn't mind another wide receiver. Most importantly, we need help at the offensive line. We need 2 tackles and we need a center. 100%. It's all doable. It's all doable. The Purdy's injury history hasn't been as bad as many. I mean, the MRI they say came out okay, so I think he'll be all right. Let's look to see. And he looked good the last 2 years after the surgery. So if there's another season like this, when is it time to get rid of Kyle? That's a good question. Callie, good question. You ask good questions. I was, at one point last season, starting to get a little fed up. When they had their slide, I was starting to get a little fed up. But to be fair, look at the injuries this team has sustained this year. Burford, Banks, Hargrave, McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, Drake Jackson, Talanoa Huffenega, Wishnowski, and it just keeps on coming. It just keeps on coming. Again, this reminds me of the 2020 season after the Super Bowl run to the Kansas City the first time. But this is the time when they have to really have themselves a good draft, get a nice supplement amount of players. But look at KC and they are still rolling. Yeah, but you're also talking about a team that, if you want to match us to them, Callie, the injuries they had when Isaiah Pacheco went down, they brought in Carson Steele, they brought in Hunt. We did that similar when we brought in Jordan Mason and we brought in Isaac Arendo, to be fair. And I think already Kansas City had a better defense than we did. I mean, player for player. Plus, they've had the same Steve Spagnuolo, who's probably one of the best defensive coordinators in football, has been a mainstay in there for how many years now? We haven't had that, and that means a lot. It kind of reminds me of Alex Smith early on in his career when he was going through various different offensive coordinators, and his game was kind of changing all over the friggin' place. Not that I'm saying that's a direct correlation, but I think that it definitely matters. Because I think that when we had DeMeco Ryan steadily, things were looking great. When we had Robert Saleh steadily, things were looking great. We were at the top of the NFL. This year has been a very big letdown defensively, and our defense hasn't even been exactly the worst. But I'll tell you this much, when the fuck did you ever see us give up this many points? When did you ever see us not get 40 sacks? We only got 37. Interception-wise, we're not bad, but no. Also, the same team we play Monday has. Yeah, that's a good. I'll give you that. That's another good point. Man, the Lions were banged up galore, but again, here's the difference: the Lions have a better supplement of players altogether behind these guys. We don't have that. To be fair, I mean, you're talking about this. Jack Campbell's a friggin' wrecking ball. And again, I think that it's just a testament to the way they draft and the players they put in place. They're going with the system and it works. I mean, just because they lost Aiden Hutchinson, their defense isn't that good at all. I don't know. I mean, I love Darren Glenn as a player. I thought he was a phenomenal corner. As defensive coordinator, I don't know. People got to stop with him trying to get a head coaching job. It was like, he's the end-all be-all. You gave up 40. You gave up 34 points to the Niners. You gave up a chunk of points the week before that. Most likely you're going to give up a chunk of points this week against Minnesota. I don't know if the league caught up to Kyle, Callie. I think that Kyle has a way of doing things, it seems to me. He gets these into a zone and he just doesn't defer away from that. Like, I noticed this year, how many times are they going to run the same play with Deebosamuel, the same 2 plays that they give to him? It's the screen out to the left, and then it's that little pitch thing. I liked when they were lining him up Monday night as a running back. I thought that was different. I like when they were using Pearsall as a running back. I like when Pearsall tried to do the flea flicker. That's when I like to see Shanny come alive and change things up a little and play some rookies. But I get it. You stick with what's working. It's what the greats do, to be honest. It's what Pat Riley did. It's what Phil Jackson did. It's what Coach Tibbs does for the New York Knicks. They don't believe in playing rookies. They stick what works until the wheels fall off. And that's not always the good way to do it, especially when you need help because of injuries. So, look, they're going to need to stitch back this team. Adjust, I don't know about. I will say this. Like Monday night, I didn't expect them to come out throwing. I wish they would have went more the running way, because it seems to me that when they come out throwing the ball, they go away from the running game. And when they come out running the ball, things just feel and flow a lot better because we are a running team first. So why are we going away from that? I just sometimes don't understand that. So I would love to see him kind of get those two together more. And again, you think with the running backs that we have, teams would kill for the talent we have back there. Like, why aren't we pounding the ball so much more? It's good that Purdy has added the rushing aspect to his game, but in the long run, you don't want to see your quarterback, having to do all the running, because there were a couple of weeks, I think he's got 434 yards on the ground. There were a couple of weeks when he was like second or third in rushing in terms of quarterbacks. For all the things he's not Jalen Hurts and he's not Lamar Jackson. It's just not his DNA. But I think I like when I see him run. I think he makes good choices when he's in the open field. But look, we got one more game left. Thank God Purdy's injury wasn't ultra serious, although we'll wait and see. He is sitting this week, so I hope they go with Josh Dobbs, man. I was a big fan of when they got him. I like the kid, man. The kid's very smart, very intelligent, very cerebral. Had a nice little, 3 or 4, ran one in. Kid was doing good last year with 2 different teams in Arizona and Minnesota. I like him as a backup. Brandon Allen, I'm not huge on. Guy Larry Kruger made a good point, though, too. He said they should, the Niners should bring in some more competition for the quarterback position, for the backup quarterback position. Oh, good. Dobbs is the starter. Excellent. Thank you, brother. Good. I like Dobbs, man. I like him. I give the kid, got moxie. He's got smarts. He's not afraid. He can stand in the pocket and run. He's got experience. I like him. I like him as a backup. I really do, man. I was really happy they got him this year. So, look, Sunday's a winnable game. I want to win, but I'm almost more anxious just to get to the off season and start the rebuild. I shouldn't say rebuild. Start the building up, I should say. Rebuild was the wrong word, because there's a lot of things that have to be done, and there may be some moves that have to be made. We need competition every position, not just. Yeah, no, that's for sure. We do need competition every position, man. 100%. I think that there's going to have to be some guys not re-signed, of course. There's going to have to be some guys. There might be a trade here or there. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to speculate. But what I really would like to see is a very heavy draft. Something that we get a nice abundance of players. Because let's face it, this past draft looks pretty good right now. Garendo, Green, Mustafa, Dominic Pooney, and Ricky Pearsall. If he can duplicate what he did the other night, we don't look too bad. So we need another heavy draft of talented players all around. And I like the way we draft later on sometimes. A lot of guys are down on Lynch when it comes to the draft and Shanahan. But this last batch seems to be really good. And that just, we need, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I read the same thing twice. So, look, tough loss, man. Could have won that game, for sure. It's another one in the books that we could have won. The 2 interceptions hurt. But, facts are facts. Moody makes all those kicks. We win the game 41-40. That's it. I don't even think you need to really delve more into it than that. We didn't have a lot of penalties. It was one of those games. It was pound for pound, our offense versus yours. Neither defense is stopping each other. Sometimes you just have them. You know, what can you say? The better team won. Hat off to the Detroit Lions. Coach Campbell is a phenomenal coach. I think a phenomenal role model. He was a badass, tough player. He's a riverboat gambler with that fourth down. And it's going to be a some game between them and the Vikings. I definitely want to catch that one. But it's going to be interesting. Who's going to come out of the NFC? Because right now, to me, in the AFC, you know, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. In fact, I think it's their season again, unless Detroit can run the table. But with the injuries and the defense, I don't know if that's possible. It'll be interesting to see. But let's keep our ears open if they come up with any news about Purdy and the injury to the arm, which didn't look like much on the replay, but he said it was on fire, and then there was no damage to the surgically repaired ulnar nerve. Thank God. So happy to see Josh Dobbs get some burn. A lot of these journalists are big on Tanner Mordecai, another guy they had brought in. I watched him play against Tennessee in the preseason. He didn't look too bad, but more of a reason why you should have a bigger competition in the offseason. So, Niner faithful, it's been a season and a half, man. If you're a drinker, you're definitely hitting the bottle this season, man. Stressful as a motherfucker, but better days, man. Better days. There's a lot of positive out there for this team for sure, man. All right, that's about it for now. I'll be coming at you back this week with some more content. Thank you so much for watching the live feed. If you have, thank you so much for checking out this podcast. If I could only get the word out, please hit the like button and give a follow. Always feel free to send me some questions or whatever on Instagram. Much love and respect. Happy New Year. Be well.